Hello, my name's Peter Coyote. And if you're going to Chicago to demonstrate during the Democratic Convention, I say congratulations. Whatever the issue is, if you believe in it fervently, you ought to be there and you ought to represent it. But you ought to represent it with respect and with an eye to the way it will be used to make TV videos by the people who are running against you. So I'd like to tell you a story about what came up during the Vietnam War years, when my friends and I were equally morally outraged as you are today. We were watching prisoners executed in the streets, children set on fire, villages being killed, men and women and children, innocent farmers wiped away. It was being done in our names, and we weren't going to stand for it. And we were so angry and so obdurate that we refused to vote for the Democratic candidate for president. It was Hubert Humphrey, a genial, middle-of-the-road Democrat, not a bad guy, much like Joe Biden in personality. And because of that, Richard Nixon was elected president. And we got 8 years of draconian drug laws that locked up hundreds of thousands of young men and women and changed their lives irrevocably. We got anti-abortion laws. We got banking deregulations that had incredible effects downstream. You probably don't know about the savings and loan scandal that wiped $250 billion out of personal savings accounts and stuff. This was all because of Republican and Democrat neoliberal policies. So the mistake we made, we didn't know where the line was. Hubert Humphrey was on our side of the line. He wasn't Richard Nixon. And today, the most conservative Democrat is still on your side of the line. They're going to fight for women. They're going to fight for the environment. They're going to fight for a just economy. They're going to fight for things you believe in. They may not be as adamant as you are, and they may not see it in the timeline you do, but they're your team. And if you forget what a protest is, and if you forget how to make a protest work, you're going to actually make a lot more trouble, just like we did. So I want to give you 4 little things to think about in a protest. A protest is a ceremony. It's an invitation to a better world. And nobody accepts an invitation when they're being screamed at. So we have an example of protests that actually changed America. It changed the world we live in. And that was the Black freedom marches and civil rights demonstrations in the 50s and 60s. And there was a time when Black people could be strung up like Christmas ornaments. There were lynchings, there were deaths, there was segregation. They were not allowed to vote. They were backed up against the wall. And they had no option but to succeed. And they succeeded by comporting themselves with dignity, with dressing like they were going to church, with never raising their voices unless it was in song, and by showing the difference between themselves and the crazed, spittle-flying mobs that were beating the crap out of them in Woolworths, chasing little 9-year-old girls in the street. They drew a line in the sand and they changed America. So when you go to Chicago, I want you to remember something. The audience for a protest is never the political class. It's never the newspaper class. It's never the fat cats. And it's never the media. There's only one audience that counts for anything in a protest. And that audience is the American people. And they're watching everything that goes on, and they're trying to figure out who they can trust. And if you make them trust you, you'll win at the ballot box, and then you'll have real power. And if they don't trust you, you'll be Republican campaign videos. So here's a couple little things that'll help make a protest successful. In the first place, let the women run it. Let them plan it and organize it. Less testosterone flying around. It'll be more consensual. It'll just work better. Just trust me on that one. Second thing is you have to appoint proctors. Give them yellow sweaters or highway workers' vests and whistles. And their only job is to watch for violence. And at the first sign of violence, they blow those whistles and every protester sits down. Let the police take out their agita on the provocateurs and the anarchists and the people wrecking little small businesses and causing damage in communities where they don't live. The people watching will know it's not you. The second one is dress like you're going to church. It's hard to be made out to be a hoodlum if you're clean and well dressed. It doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be fancy, but it makes it obvious you didn't come there to rumble. Third, make your protest silent. Let signs do the talking for you. Demonstrate to the American people that you have the self-discipline to be quiet, that you're not creating anger. You're not creating all the causes you're trying to conquer. You don't want to be the problem. You want to be the alternative to the problem. And fourth is go home at night. You can't tell the cops from the killers after dark. So get a good night's rest, take care of yourself, go back the next day. If you do that, there's a chance you can win over the majority of the American people who are trying to figure out who to trust. But to get their trust, you have to be trustworthy. You have to be like those early civil rights marchers. It has to be so important that you're willing to give up your virtue signaling. You're willing to give up your displays of anger and pique and temper. Like your feelings are the most important things on earth. And you have to have a strategy. And the strategy has to be to win the trust of the American people. So go to the convention. Please. God bless you for that. But please behave like adults. Behave like warriors. Behave like people who have everything to lose. Thanks very much.